Hello there. Less than 24 hours after he sacked the Prime Minister and declared a state of emergency, the Palestinian president has named a new government. It will be led by this man, Salam Fayyad, an independent, but that decision is unlikely to loosen the political deadlock in Gaza. But after 5 days of fighting, which left around 120 people dead, the guns did fall silent at midnight. And after Friday prayers, Hamas supporters spilled onto the streets of Gaza in celebration. We'll have more on the task facing the new Prime Minister a little later, but we begin with this report from Noor O'Day in Gaza City.
Gunshots, this time for celebration, as hundreds of Hamas supporters answer their movement's call to rally across Gaza and express support for the movement and the deposed Prime Minister. But sentiments in Gaza are not all in unison. One Hamas supporter is killed and 2 others wounded as they marched in celebration in the central Gaza Strip. To the south in Khan Yunis, Hamas gunmen execute an officer in the Preventative Security Force, while elsewhere Hamas gunmen carry out home-to-home searches looking for wanted Fatah members. The military wing of Hamas, the effective military ruler of the Gaza Strip, held a press conference in Gaza City announcing clemency for captured Fatah leaders and Palestinian Authority security chiefs.
Let today, Friday, the holy day, be the day of forgiveness. In line with the teachings of Islam, the Qassam brigades decided to pardon all the leaders of the security apparatus after the brigades arrested a number of them renegades.
Meanwhile, Gaza residents ventured out to the street, inspecting the aftermath of 5 days of brutal violence that tore the occupied nation apart and left at least 120 dead and almost 500 others injured. Some also inspected the fallen security compounds, stealing whatever they could carry. Elsewhere, some of the captured security headquarters, including the president's compound, are set ablaze. For his part, the deposed Prime Minister, who rejected President Abbas's decrees, promised Gaza residents security.
We call upon all Palestinian people to show calm and self-restraint and not to take any action which contradicts the morals of the Palestinian people against houses, compounds and ministries. We must provide full security to all of these properties.
In Ramallah, President Abbas appointed Salam Fayyad Prime Minister of the new emergency government, expected to be announced late Friday. These are the first signs of Gaza's new reality. 1.4 million Palestinians trapped in a small slither of land that's sealed off from the rest of the world and scarred by deep divides and simmering hatreds, sunk in political uncertainty. Noor O'Day, Al-Jazeera, Gaza.
So those were the scenes in Gaza, but it was over in the West Bank, a Fatah stronghold, where more momentous political decisions were taken. Just hours after the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas dissolved the unity government and sacked the Prime Minister, Hamas's Ismail Haniyeh, he appointed a new man to lead a new emergency government. From Ramallah, Jackie Rowland has this report.
Riding shotgun through the streets of Ramallah. But don't be confused by the masks. These men are from the official Palestinian security forces. They're sending a not-so-subtle message that the West Bank, at least, is still in the hands of President Mahmoud Abbas and his Fatah movement.
The state of emergency is allowing Fatah to consolidate its grip on the West Bank. But as far as Gaza is concerned, it's meaningless. There's now a total disconnect between the two territories, and Fatah needs to accept that Gaza is lost.
It's the morning after the night before. The relief and jubilation when the old government was dissolved have now been replaced by anxiety about the future.
Hamas is an Islamic movement, and I think they are acting with no plans, no political plans, no social plans.
You know, we've been under occupation for 40 years and more. And the people of Palestine, they'll always find a solution at the end. And I think Hamas and Fatah, they will find something together and we'll get out of this situation.
The leadership of the PLO has been meeting in the presidential compound. Their task to form an emergency government. They've chosen a new prime minister. He's Salam Fayyad, a well-known independent and outgoing finance minister. East Jerusalem is also feeling the effects of the insecurity in the West Bank. Worshippers going to pray at Al-Aqsa Mosque found their way barred by Israeli police. No young people were allowed to pass.
Here, as you see, they're trying to invest any single occasion happens there to just maybe to close the Aqsa to prevent us from entering there.
Of course, I'm worried basically about sending this situation to the West Bank and Jerusalem. This is a very hard and tricky situation.
The fighting in Gaza has thrown the Palestinian people into what may be its worst crisis since the 1967 war and occupation. The challenge now facing the leadership in Ramallah and the new rulers in Gaza is to spare the Palestinian people from more suffering. And that's the responsibility of Israel and the international community too. Jackie Rowland, Al Jazeera, Ramallah.
Well, we have correspondents standing by right across the region. There they are. Noor Odeh is in Gaza, Wali Batrawi in Ramallah, and also Amr al-Kaki in Cairo, where significantly the Arab League has just begun a meeting to discuss the crisis. But I'm going to begin here in the studio with our senior Middle East analyst, Marwan Bishara. Marwan, good to have you with us again. Let's talk about Salam Fayyad. Who is he? What can he bring to this new emergency government?
Well, first and foremost, just a quick CV, Kamal. Salam Fayyad is graduated from the US, from Texas University, doctorate in economics, senior in the World Bank and the IMF, moved to private banking sector in the West Bank, became a finance minister, and then ran on the slot of an independent with Hanan Ashrawi, won 2 seats in the Legislative Council, became finance minister. He is the darling of the international community, being a man who speaks the economics and the finance of the West. On the other hand, he is not exactly a strong man within the Palestinian society. He is not exactly that charismatic or visionary. However, he is known to be a correct accountant. Not necessarily the reckless investment banker, but certainly someone who will be working with Abbas exactly as Abbas would like him to.
So in your opinion, is a man like him, a financial man, the right guy to have in this position at this very crucial time?
What we know for sure is that Mr. Abbas is going to be investing in Mr. Fayyad to get all the international aid he needs for the Palestinian Authority, or rather for the emergency government. So Salam Fayyad would be that bridge with the international community. However, Salam Fayyad wouldn't be able to be that strong leader to lead an emergency government. It's going to be more in the hands of Abbas and his advisors to take the ball in terms of security situation in the West Bank.
The other player we have to consider is Ismail Haniyeh, the deposed Hamas prime minister, who said he doesn't accept any of this. Therefore, does this appointment affect him in any way, or are we now looking at 2 very separate governments?
We are looking at 2 separate governments, Kamal. However, the question is that in front of both governments is the following. Are they going to compete to destabilize the West Bank and Gaza, or are they going to compete to improve the situation in the West Bank and Gaza? Haniyeh has a few choices. First of all, he can release Johnson. He can help the release of the British journalist Johnson. He can collect all the illegal arms, and he can make sure he arrives at some kind of an agreement with Israel on the idea of security. Abbas, on the other hand, will have to impose his security government, his emergency government on the West Bank. He will have to collect enough international aid in order then to begin the dialogue between the 2 governments under the presidency of Abbas in order to bring the situation into the pre-June 2007.
Good to get your thoughts. Marwan Bishara, our political analyst here at Al Jazeera. Let's go to Gaza now. Noor Odeh is standing by. Noor, how will this appointment of Salam Fayyad go down in Gaza? Will anyone take any notice?
Well, residents in Gaza are taking notice of everything that is happening in the Gaza Strip and in the West Bank. They are very concerned and they're very uncertain as to what will happen next. They are hearing from the deposed Prime Minister, Mr. Ismail Haniyeh, saying that the government will go on, that it will take care of people and that it will restore security. They don't know how that will happen. They're also hear from the President that the majority of them elected, saying that he will appoint a new government that will take care of them and bring some sense of law and order. They are the residents, the ordinary Palestinians, will be watching carefully how these developments will unfold in the coming days and weeks. Who will the international community choose to speak to? And who will the international community choose to empower to facilitate the lives of ordinary civilians? I've spoken to many civil servants who are now wondering who's going to pay our salaries. We weren't getting